Hello and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel, series of C# basic tutorials. And as always, please go ahead and follow me on my GitHub account, visit my website, and if you have any questions, multiple email options. Right then, so in this one, I am going to talk a little bit about Boolean expressions. Now, there was another video, decision logic, where we did use some Boolean expressions. So now as we are progressing upwards, I'm now in video number 11. I'm talking each tiny topic in each video. So as the videos progress, till now the topics were isolated. So if I'm talking about variable names, I'm only talking about variable names. If I'm talking about if else, I'm only talking about if else. But now as the videos go upwards so we are now no longer in the very basics thing, we're kind of moving upwards to more complex interactions. So topics might get mixed up, so you might feel like I'm doing the same topic again, but that is just how it's going to go from now on. So there we go. So we did touch upon this in the previous video. I think it was video number 9, not 9, sorry, video number 8, decision logic, where we did use some Boolean stuff. But here we are going to go into some of the operators in a little bit more deeper level. So there are a lot of topics here, but they're all very straightforward, very commonsensical. Again, it's all borrowed from your high school math. So this should be pretty straightforward as well. So let's jump to it. So let's go ahead. I got my example code as always on my second monitor, so I can look at it as I am going through it. The script, the example code, everything is there. So I want to make sure I look at it so that I look less like a guy who doesn't know what he's doing. So console app, next. This chapter is called Boolean expressions. Here we go, .NET. Now where did I keep my water? No, hold on. Okay, I've got my water. Sometimes I'm only recording one video in a day, and other times I'm recording a bunch of videos, like at a stretch. It just depends on what I'm thinking on a specific day. So today is one of those long streak kind of scenarios. So getting thirsty. Okay. All right then. So yes, so we are talking about Boolean expression. So let's start with the very basic one, which is an expression is anything that you write and it's doing something. Like in this case, Boolean expression is whatever code you write to check for something that becomes true or false. So for example, let's say if I do something like, if I have a variable called is it afternoon. So as I'm recording this video right now, it is afternoon. You can see bright light from the window. So I'm going to call this true. It is actually afternoon right now. And I'm going to say if is it afternoon is equal to true. So this part, whatever you put inside your if condition here, this part, that is an expression, because it when you check it, the output is going to be either true or false depending on the value of the variable. So here it is true and we are checking if it's true. So the output is going to be console.writeLine yes, it is indeed afternoon, and then voila. And I can have an else here, and I could have the opposite sentence that says no, it is not afternoon. So now when I run this code, the output is going to be yes, it is afternoon, based on the Boolean expression, which turned out to be true. But if I go back here and change the value to false, so now the Boolean expression will fail. This will become false, not fail. True or false, they're both equally right. And then say the output becomes no, it is not afternoon. So Boolean expressions are useful when you're trying to do based on some condition. So here I'm trying to show an output based on the day of the time, and that might be useful in a project. So maybe you're building some kind of a weather app and you're trying to generate some JSON data where you have to respond what time of the day it is. You have to respond either it's morning or afternoon or day night, and that's really what it is. So there you go. That is one example of a Boolean expression. So there are different values. So here we are doing what is called as the equality operator. There are many operators. We're going to I obviously am going only checking for the more frequently used ones, again, the more basic ones as always. So that is the equality operator, which is double equals. Now, what if you're trying to compare strings? Now, when you're comparing strings, strings, they come with a lot of challenges. They could be uppercase, lowercase, but you're just trying to find out if two strings are same. Then there are some modifiers that you can use to make sure that you remove those extra things. Okay, so let's have two let's have two strings here. So I am going to say var first string of Batman. Now again, I'm using a Batman example, so I'm going to say I am Batman. Okay, and another string, I want to say second string of Batman is equal to I am Batman. So now what we could do, let's say we want to compare both of them, and for the sake of discussion, let's say that for us, let's say they are both same. So what could we do? We could do something like this. We can do first, we can say we can var processed. I'm going to create another variable called processed first string is equal to, I could do something like, again, I'm just making sure I'm checking my notes to make sure I'm not making any mistakes. And here I want to say dot trim. Trim will go ahead and removes all leading and trailing instances of character from the current string, leading and trailing instances of a character. Okay, trim spaces. Okay, that's good. And then I want to say to lower. Yes, I want to make it lowercase. And trim, I don't think we have to do. There we go. Okay, now let's do something. So here I want to add some spaces, right? But the sentence should be identical. So it only removes the trailing space. It doesn't remove anything else. So I'm going to call this one like this. So now let's do the same thing. So I am going to go ahead and say console.writeLine first string of Batman. Okay, and second, then I'm going to say process first string. Good. And then I want to say second string of Batman. Now let's see what happens to these. So look at this output here. Now look at that. Now obviously the first Boolean expression, the afternoon thing, is done. Now next I have the actual sentence. You'll see here that I am Batman, first sentence, but it has a lot of extra space in the beginning and ending. But that is what I did here as well. I purposefully, intentionally, obviously you don't write sentences like this. You don't intentionally put spaces, but you can't really assume that. Like, you might be very logical or planned out, but imagine you're building a website where somebody is submitting a form. What if when they're filling the form, accidentally they press the keyboard space bar and they didn't realize it? Okay, or maybe there's some debug problems, some coding issues, and some spaces are being added without accidentally. So then it makes sense for you to make sure that when you're collecting information from the user, you strip away whatever you don't need. And what if, like, for example, the other day I was working on a small project on Azure blob storage, and there, what happened? If you're, we do what is called as containers. Okay, so in the cloud storage, what you do is you create a container, and then inside the container you put all your blobs. A blob means files. But before you can put the blob, before you can upload your images and any other file, your first step is to create the container, and the container is very specific. You can't use uppercase letters. Now let's say, I'm also in the project, I'm also building a UI front end also, where the user can create a container. Now what if the user keeps entering uppercase? Of course, you can do some input validation and all that. That's all great, but you can't assume input validation. As much as possible, as a backend developer, you have to take as much control as you can. So you have to assume that input validation might fail, or it's not built yet, or something else goes wrong. So what we do is, okay, fine. If you want to put spaces, do it, and then we go ahead and use the trim option, and then use the lower option and remove all the extra spaces and convert the sentence to lowercase anyway. So that way, ultimately, as a backend developer, you are in control, and you can allow the input to be more flexible, or you can even forget about the input validation for spaces. Why that additional headache? Tell the customer to type whatever they want, and then once the sentence comes to you in the API server, you do your modifications anyway. That actually is a better way, because ultimately, as a software developer, you have to make your code as useful as possible, not put the burden of usability on the user. You should make it as easy as possible. So because you as a developer can take on the burden, the user life should be simple. So anyway, so there you go. So what we did is, so I'm trying to compare these two strings, and if I look at the output, I see that, okay, so spaces are gone, but they're still not matching though, because the second sentence has uppercase in the beginning. So if I compare these two, it will be false, because you can see from here just by looking, they are not the same. So what I will do is I'll go ahead and I will say another code here, and I'm going to say var processed second string. Okay, nothing wrong in using long variable names. I'm a big fan of long variable names. So here I'm going to say second string of batman.trim.toLower, right? Okay, so now let's go ahead and say process string, and I want to do the second string. So let's see what happens. Okay, very nice. Look at that. Now the first sentence, it has all the spaces. The second sentence, it is I am Batman, no spaces or anything, but it does have uppercase. But then I processed it, I removed the spaces and converted it to lowercase, and the second string also I removed the lowercase. I converted the uppercase into lowercase. So now they are identical. So I can do something like if process first string is equal to second string, and I should get console.writeLine. Now remember, console.write is very, very useful. It's caveman debugging. They are identical after they are processed with string functions. And we did use string function to process it, so I'm just going to mention that. So if I run this code, I should get the output that says it's not coming. How crazy. Oh, that's because I'm comparing the wrong thing. Hold on. AI, that's why I'm telling you, use AI, but be very careful. Hold on, there is some noise in the background. 1 second. Some vehicle is passing by. Okay, let's do this. There you go. They are identical after they are processed. Now let's do the same comparison, but before they are processed. So I'm going to say if first string of Batman is equal to second string of Batman, and I'm sure it's not going to work. So here, so this will never work. The first output will never come. Look at that. That's because the first string, let's put a breakpoint here, and I run this. Oh, it's not even going inside. Oh, I should put the breakpoint outside. Sorry. Yeah, putting breakpoint itself is a skill, You'll get it over time with experience. So there you go. So look at this. Second string of Batman is I am Batman. The first string of Batman is I am Batman, but with spaces in the beginning and the front. Now, but if I go here, let me put another breakpoint there. And now look at this. This is I am Batman, lowercase, no spaces. This is I am Batman, lowercase, no extra spaces in the beginning or the end. Obviously, it's going to pass. It's going to go inside. Look at that. It's going inside. Boom. And that's where you are getting the output. And that is the equality operator. We tried the equality operator with other, Boolean expressions here, where we had a Boolean value itself. And then we are trying that with string as well. So you can see that the Boolean expression works for both of them. So I'm going to delete the breakpoints here. That's fine. Let's see what other I want to show you in this one. So not inequality operator. Obviously, if you have an equality operator, you also have a inequality operator. So I can get the same output in another way. So I can say if processing first string not equal to, and I'm going to say console.writeLine, they are not equal, which is a negative checking. So obviously that will never happen right now with the current values. But I'm going to put an else here because I'm using the inequality operator. There you go. Now again, I'll have the output twice because now I'm using the inequality operator, which does the reverse of it. So because we are doing the reverse, the else part becomes essential. So let's go ahead and do that. There you go. It's working. Okay, now if I don't put the else part, the second output will never come because that is checking for a false situation. There it is. The second output doesn't come. So that is the inequality operator. Now you might be thinking you already have the equality operator. When would you use the inequality operator? Now you never know. There are always situations where maybe it just seems logical that you want to use the inequality operator. So if you're checking for something like, hey, are two numbers the same? Maybe you want to check if they are equal, but maybe it's more natural for you given the context to do the reverse of it in your coding. But good, remember, with Boolean, either of them is fine. You do what you're more comfortable with. Now when I'm checking for strings, I find this is more natural, but another person might find this is more natural. Totally okay. So that's the inequality operator. Let's keep going. Next, let's go for the comparison operators. Now comparison operators, less than, greater than, we have touched upon that before, so let's do that one more time. So let's say I have var first number is equal to 10, and then I am going to say var second number is equal to 20, and I'm going to say if first number is greater than second number, and here I am going to say console.writeLine first number is greater than the second number. Good. I can do the reverse of that as well. I can also put an else, but I'm just gonna just check the reverse of it. So I'm gonna say first number is less than second number, and here I'm going to go and change the sentence. I'm going to say lesser than the second number, and I can keep going. You can also use the equal operator with the greater than symbol. So let's do that. First number is greater than or equal to second number, and we can say less than or equal to second number. So it's comparison operator. So let's go ahead and give it a try, see what outputs show up. So we have, there you go, first number is lesser than second number, which is right. 10 is less than 20. Again, the same thing, first number is lesser than second number with the second output. So that is how you go ahead and use the comparison operators. It's all basic math. You already know how to do this, but otherwise, these are just like programming. The more you practice, the more logic you apply, you'll eventually figure out how to do this. So let's keep going. So that's about the comparison operators. We have the logical negation. We have done that. Conditional operator. Now something that is relatively new, like not new. Programming is already pretty old, but conditional operator is something like an if else, but in a single line. So let's try that. It's very useful when you're doing data comparisons, especially between two values. So let's go ahead and do that. So here, let's say I have a number var some number is equal to 10, and I want to say, here I'm going to say int another number is equal to, here you want to say, I just want to get the syntax right. So here I want to say some number is greater than 50, then I want this number to become 100, or I want the other number, sorry, I have to put the Boolean expression. So I always get a little confused with the ternary operator, right? A conditional operator, in JavaScript, I believe it's called the ternary operator. So some number is greater than 20, then it should become 50 or it should become 100. So what is happening here? So think of it this way. So this is like if, okay, if the number is greater than 20, then another number becomes 50. Else another number becomes 100. So if you have to do this in typing, then it will be something like this. If another number, if some number greater than 20, then another number equals 50, else another number is equal to 100. So in both cases, we will get the same output. Now, why do we need the conditional operator, right? Now, because this scenario where you're checking for something, and if it is true, you give another variable a specific value, or you give another variable another value. This is a very, very common scenario in coding, in project development. A lot of times you are deciding between two options where the flow of the code has to go, right? For example, let's say user and password. So when the password is entered, there can only be two things. Either the password is correct or the password is incorrect. If the password is correct, say you send a success message. If the password is incorrect, you send a failure message. So like this, a lot of things in life and the coding that you do, you have two directions based on one single decision. Now, obviously, you can write if else, but look at the amount of code you have to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if you want to, you can write the whole thing in a single line. Nobody is stopping you from writing everything in a single line. Really, C# doesn't really care. There's no reason that you can't put all that in a single line. See, the whole thing is in a single line, right? So if you're thinking, hey, you know what, we can just put everything in a single line, no problem. So it looks shorter, okay, but what they did was they went ahead and created something which is much more easy to type and things like that. So really, it's about saving space and making things faster. So like this, there are a lot of things in programming where there are like shortcuts for a lot of things. For example, like if you want to increase something, so let's say you have var another number is equal to 10. Let's say you want to add 1 to it, so you can do something like var another number. Oh, that's not working. So let's say you have another variable called increment number and you want to increase it by 1. So you can do something like this: increment number is equal to increment number plus 1. This is perfectly fine. It works and it is readable. This is actually more readable to me than this one, even though they're both doing the same thing. But it takes up a lot of typing effort, it takes up a lot of space. So this also same thing, it's much more readable. But instead of doing this, I can always do something like this, much shorter. So it saves you typing space and typing effort. Now another thing to notice is in both this line and this line, the common factor is that you are typing the same variable name twice. Duplication. Same thing here, increment number, increment number. So this is another thing you'll notice in programming. Now, the idea behind efficient programming, now I'm not saying I'm some expert, highly efficient programmer or something, but I do have some awareness about it. So whenever you are duplicating something in a piece of code, by default, that is a mistake. For example, here I am showing in line number 50, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So I am duplicating the exact same line of code 4 times. Now that would be bad programming. Now, in this video, in this context, that's okay, because I'm trying to show something. I'm trying to teach you the basics. So when I'm just teaching you basics, some inefficiency in your code is perfectly okay, because this is just a console program. Efficiency and optimization doesn't come here. Here the optimization efficiency is about the purpose of training. So in that case, yes, I am in the right direction. But in terms of pure software performance, that is bad. So what I would do is, in a situation is, I would probably take this line, put it in a function, or rather I'd put it in a function in a class that implements an interface, and then use that interface implementation to get this output. So that would be efficient. Okay, so similarly, things like this, they may look a little confusing. Like I keep forgetting the name. It's called conditional operator. So so these things like this, you'll run into these things. The more you code, the more advanced level you progress. They are all about making your typing effort faster, more efficient coding, and they may even have performance enhancements that we don't know about under the hood. So there you go. That is the conditional, I keep forgetting the name, conditional operator. I believe in JavaScript it's called the ternary operator, and so on and so forth. So there we go. That is the stuff that I want to talk about. One last thing I think I'm supposed to do is nested if else situation. So I can have Boolean expressions going inside Boolean expressions. So I could do something like this. So I could say, let me take this one. So I can say, let me take this, and okay, and here I can do another if, and I can say if first number is equal to 10, and I can do some extra messages for that. Here I can say and it is equal to 10, right? And I can say else, Okay, there you go. And then, so there you go. So that's like a nested if else. So you can have nested Boolean expression evaluation. So let's give it a try. So I'm going to run this here, and there you go. First number is lesser than the second number, and it is equal to 10. Now, if I go back and change this first number to 15, I'll get a different output. So it's nested if. So first number is still less than the second number, but it is not equal to 10 because we have changed it from 10 to 15. So there it is. So that was the last thing I was supposed to cover in this one. So there you go. Equality operator, string equality, inequality operator, comparison operators, logical negation, conditional operator, also called as a ternary operator, and nested if else situation. Now it doesn't have to be one level of nesting. You can have as many levels of nesting as your program demands. So there you go, my dear students. So that's about the Boolean expressions. We will keep coming back to this, as the videos progress. More and more concepts will get intertwined, and we will not be in a position to discuss things in isolation anymore. But that's just how programming works. So there you go. Thank you.